so hard. There's so much good music going on around here.
Let's hear from our studio audience now.
Yes. You're going to want to see that.
That is some groovy intro music.
Add it to the list.
Add it to the list. It's a running tab. Leave us a voicemail at 970-579-0843.
Welcome to Sound On Podcast. Sound On brings you all of your Boulder County music news, who's playing where and when. We also bring you exclusive artist interviews, jam sessions, album releases, and more. If you're an artist or venue and would like to have your show featured, email us info@soundonpodcast.com. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Sleepy. This time change is messing with me.
It's so brutal.
I don't even have anywhere to be.
We were just talking about this. We're like, we have nothing to do. Things, but no reason to be so kicked in the ass by it.
Exactly. But here we are.
Exactly. Damn. We've got High Road Home with us here today that we're going to sit down and chat with about what they're doing with their band, and we're going to hear some great songs.
Yeah, they're going to play us 2 or 3 songs, and it's just going to be a blast. Let's get into the music calendar, shall we?
We shall. Today, Wednesday, March 13th, at the 300 Suns Brewing, we've got Drop In Acoustic Jam with Tim Ostdiek at 6 p.m. That's me, goddammit.
That's your new name.
That's my new name. Yeah. At Rayback Collective, we've got... And I can pronounce my own name. That's a joke.
Nobody else can.
Anybody else gonna think that? At Rayback Collective, we've got By the Lee at 6 p.m. At Beyond the Mountain Brewing, we've got the Bluegrass Pick at 5 p.m.
And Thursday, March 14th, at the Outback Saloon, Cuttlefish is at 8 p.m. At License Number 1, George Nelson Band at 9 p.m. At Longmont Public House, the 3-chair jam with Andy Eppler. At St. Vrain Cidery, Bob Barrick is playing at 6 p.m. And it's Honky Tonk Happy Hour at the Tasty Weasel at 6 p.m.
On to Friday, March 15th at Georgia Boys Barbecue, we've got the Spring is Coming music series at 7 p.m. Colin Robison will be at Longtucky Spirits at 7 p.m. Selasee Reggae Fusion will be playing the Longmont Museum and Cultural Center at 2:30 p.m. Finn O'Sullivan will be at Still Cellars at 6:30 p.m. Over at CHUBurber, we've got Wrenn and Ian at 6 p.m.
At the Roost, Hillbilly Hellcats are at 8 p.m. At the Tasty Weasel, the Delta Sonics are at 5 p.m. Genuine Revier is at 10 p.m. at the Lazy Dog in Boulder. At Bohemian Beer Garden, it's Gorilla Fanfare at 10 p.m. Wiley is at Oscar Blues Boulder at 7:30 p.m. And at License Number 1, Franklin and Friends at 9 p.m.
And on to Saturday, March 16th, at the Laughing Goat in Boulder, we've got Shanna in Address and Friends at 8 p.m. Banshee Tree will be at License Number 1 at 9 p.m. Over at Oscar Blues in Boulder, we've got Bonnie and the Clydes at 8 p.m. Mojo Mama will be at Dannick's Gun Barrel Corner Bar at 7:30.
Bootstrap Brewing in Longmont, Indigent Row is at 6 p.m. At Grosson Bar in Longmont, Unauthorized Absence is at 7 p.m. Cass Clayton Band at 8:30 p.m. at Oscar Blues. At Wild Game Longmont, Red Hot Rockabilly with Dixie Leadfoot at 8 p.m. And the George Nelson Trio at the Tasty Weasel at 4:30 p.m.
On Sunday, March 17th and St. Patrick's Day, we've got Brian Riesack at the Tasty Weasel at 3 p.m. That's a St. Patty's Day show for you. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
At Bohemian Beer Garden, we've got Stomp Street Heist at 8:30 p.m.
On Monday, the 18th, at the Laughing Goat, Dominic Antonelli is at 8 p.m. At License Number 1, the Open Mic Night with Fox Feather at 7:30 p.m. And on Tuesday, March 19th, the Open Stage with Danny Schaefer at 7:30 p.m. And that does it for your music calendar. We're here with High Road Home. This is going to be a great interview. We've got Tad, Dave, Adam, and Jens here. How you guys all doing? All at the same time. Go.
Great.
That's beautiful. That was great. Yeah.
We practice.
How's everybody doing? You playing out, having a good time here in Longmont?
Good. Yeah, definitely.
What made you put this band together?
Oh gosh, so I've been playing off and on in bands for almost 20 years now, never fronting a band though up until now. And in that time, every band I've played in had multiple songwriters, and, you know, I'm a songwriter, and never felt like I had an avenue to get all of my songs out, and kind of came at it from that. I ended up with probably about 50 or 60 songs that just weren't being played. And, as a songwriter, you write them and you kind of forget about them, but they're still there. And I wanted to not lose them in the still there category and kind of bring some of them back, the ones that were good enough to. So I decided, the previous band I was in, I was getting maybe 4 or 5 songs out of the entire show. Mm-hmm. And at that point I was like, I'm writing songs faster than I could play them in my own band, so maybe I should start thinking about putting my own band together.
How did the 4 of you guys end up together?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know, there's a Facebook group called the Denver Pickers List and the Boulder Bluegrass List or something like that, Boulder Pickers. Always in the past I've put stuff up on Craigslist and gotten a hodgepodge of, people I didn't want to play with. And so...
Hey, I've answered to a Craigslist ad before.
Well, so have I, and it was not pleasant. So I put an ad up on Facebook looking for people to play with, and at the time, it's interesting. At the time, I was kind of thinking about going a more kind of electric drums, more of a Jason Isbell approach. Kind of, you've got your acoustic guitar and maybe a fiddle or maybe a banjo, like one other bluegrass style instrument. But you're doing electric bass, keyboards, drums, electric lead guitar, that kind of thing. And so originally that was kind of my initial thought was, well, maybe I'll do something completely different. I've played bluegrass for, a long time, and so that felt very refreshing. And a lot of my songs don't lend themselves to the traditional feel of bluegrass. And so, ironically enough, I put an ad up on the Denver Pickers List. I don't know why I expected to find musicians of a different ilk. But I got Jens replied pretty quickly, and actually the original lineup of this band was me and Jens, and then we had a cello player and another guitar player. So it was totally different. It was not bluegrass. Like, it didn't sound bluegrass, and it was a lot of fun to explore my songs that way. And then I met Tad and Adam here at Rocky Grass Academy.
Well, I'm going to jump in.
Summer.
I'm going to jump in on that story. So I met Adam out at Telluride. Adam's been going to Telluride for 15 years probably?
I think 13, 11.
Yeah, so I was visiting from North Carolina, which they have bluegrass there too. And I thought, well, why don't I go to this other state where they also have bluegrass and see how they do it? So I went out to Telluride by myself, showed up, shipped 100 pounds of camping gear out there and set up my tent and hung out there all week. And so I met Adam out there actually picking. Totally uninvited, joined his 2-person picking circle and made it 3. And then kind of hung out off and on with Adam all week when I was on that trip. And then after that trip, I was actually thinking already about moving to Colorado. And I don't know if you remember this, Dave. After Telluride, after I was out there for a week, I spent a week out on the Front Range here visiting, just checking out different towns. Checked out Lyons, checked out Longmont, checked out Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver. And while I was here, a friend of mine in North Carolina put me in touch with a friend of his out here, Cole Sigmund, actually. And Cole and I had been texting, and we were like, yeah, let's grab a beer, grab coffee or something sometime. And Cole was like, hey, I'm going to be at this party Saturday night. You should just come to this party. There'll be a bunch of pickers there and everything. I was like, cool, what time? He's like, about 6. It's a backyard party or whatever. So I show up at this party by myself with my guitar. Cole's not there. And there's it's not a big party. There's maybe 15 people there. This is Chris Newton's house, the band that Dave used to play in and I played in briefly. And I was just kind of like, hey guys, what's up? And so it turned out their CHUBurber player was actually not at that party, Justin. And so I guess I fit right in. And so I met Dave originally that way. And then Dave and I reconnected kind of at Rocky Grass last year. Adam was actually there too. And I had already knew Adam and kind of drew Adam into this faux band that we had for one of the sessions in Rocky Grass Academy was...
Well, so faux band, I thought this was pretty. I didn't know these guys. Well, I had met him. I didn't remember meeting him, so I felt like
I don't blame you. I'm not very memorable.
Totally, I don't know what you're talking about. But so there are different kind of sections of what you want to do for electives at Rocky Grass Academy, right? So there's beginner jam group or advanced jam group or bands who get coaching. And I was in a band at the time, and so I was like, well, I'm not. I want to take the most advanced category I can take, right? And that's this. band coaching with Pete Wernick leading the charge, and it was like, well, we'll see what happens, you know. So I go over there and I'm just standing there with my guitar case, and I think it was BJ came up to me first on the bass.
Yeah,
she's
BJ,
like
BJ Garcia.
BJ Garcia, yeah, and she's like, do you want to be part of our band? And I was like, all right. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. It's early in the morning. I've got coffee that's like currently waking me up.
And I was sitting there being like, well, you know, I have met people, but I'm still kind of meeting people in Colorado. I want to be in a band with some people that I don't know. And then like 5 seconds later, Dave's like, hey, you want to be in my band? And
I don't even remember asking you. I was just like, she's like, go find other people.
And
okay.
Then the next thing I know, Adam's in our band. I already knew Adam.
I was just standing there. So.
Yeah, and then Caitlin Anderson, who's in the band Timber that I've played with from time to time, and so already knew her. And then suddenly, so half the band I already knew at that point.
Yeah.
So mission failed.
So the first day of us, you know, so at this point I was in the band with Jens and this whole other lineup, and that they weren't a part of Rocky Grass Academy at this point. And then these two guys were in this faux band at Rocky Grass Academy, getting band coaching from John Reichman of the Jaybirds and Molly Tuttle. Like,
is John Reichman really of the Jaybirds, or
is
the Jaybirds?
Is the Jaybird? I don't know.
John Reichman.
I don't know. But like these like super pro musicians,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think back. Like, at the time, I was such a kid on the guitar, I felt like, and that was less than a year ago. Just coming that far in a year, but getting coaching from these people and feeling like, I just want to play rhythm. Don't make me take a solo. Just gonna play rhythm. Don't make me take a solo. And Molly Tuttle being like, no, take a solo.
Yeah.
And being like, oh God, you know. Like,
Yeah.
Here's one of my heroes telling me to take a solo.
Yeah, so that's kind of this is kind of the really long-winded version,
Yeah.
but yeah, basically after that, after Rocky Grass was over last year,
Don't forget the competition.
well, I wasn't going to mention that. We're not going to tell people that necessarily. Yeah,
Feel free to cut some of this out.
We're going to keep that story on the DL for now. But yeah, basically after Rocky Grass, Dave and his bandmates from Mayhem Gulch had reached out to me, and because their dobro player Justin had left the band by that point, and asked me to play a couple shows with them. And the Dave asked me to play a couple shows with, or come audition for High Road, and then the second rehearsal that I was with the band, the cello player left because she got a new job and couldn't make the commute, and so we were actually standing around being like, so what other instrument should we get? They were like, well, fiddle would be awesome.
And I was like, I don't know about banjo.
Yeah, we were definitely like, well, maybe
we're not a traditional
maybe
bluegrass
mandolin,
band, right? That was
but definitely not banjo. Like, definitely not banjo. Like, we don't know any tasteful banjo players out there. And then, like, the next rehearsal, Dave's like, yeah, so I saw Adam at a jam.
At the Oscar Blues
and
Jam.
he's going to audition for the band now. And we're like, I guess we're getting a banjo player now. So here he is.
You'll hear him play, and he's so incredibly different than
Yeah.
your typical banjo player. And it's
You'll be able
just,
to actually hear
amazing
after you
the way
hear him play. That's kind of the point.
You won't just hear a slew of notes. You'll hear like tasteful notes
Yeah.
in all the right places.
Awesome. Well, can we hear a song?
Sure.
Some of them will be the right notes.
Let's
Yeah.
play one.
Totally.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Well, at the hot desert after my loss, Lord knows I'm the son of the sun. Take me out of this town before I come undone.
And I'm counting down the days when I can be up and gone. And I'm counting all the way. This old town has done me wrong. No, there ain't no way I'll stay. I'm leaving there, it won't be long. I'm gonna make it someday out there. I'm gonna make it, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I Rode Home is here. What's the title of that song?
Gonna make it. is
Gonna
the title
make
of that
it.
song.
Nice. I'd love for you guys to play another tune since I made y'all pick up your instruments.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some upcoming gigs. Beyond the Mountain Brewing in Gun Barrel, and that is Saturday, March 16th at 6 p.m. And Oscar Blues in Lyons, April 28th at 8 p.m. So, you want to lead us into another one?
B flat, right?
Pretty flat. Yeah.
I'm the Capo supervisor.
Every band needs one.
Trust me, I messed up my Capo last night, so I was guilty as anybody. First song of rehearsal.
I've been rambling, I've been rolling, and I still can't find my way home. I've been rambling, I've been rolling, no one to leave you alone. Catching a
Scratch that wasn't B flat, right?
That's something a little more bluegrassy. Yeah, so this next song we're gonna do, I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago the shootings that happened in Las Vegas at that country music concert. I've kind of been following along, like probably everybody else in this world, to the mass shootings that occur. The first one I remember, obviously, Columbine, was 2 weeks before I moved to Colorado. So, you know, when I moved here was like, holy crap, like my little world just got a lot bigger, right? Yeah. And so after the shootings in Vegas, you know, as a musician, music is obviously very important to me. And I've been a listener for as long as I can remember. And as a listener, I always wanted to bring that energy and that happiness and that like levitating energy up. I've wanted to bring that as a musician. And so to see something like that happen and to hear about it on the news, I wasn't there, thank God, but to see it on the news and to hear about it really moved me quite a bit. And so the morning after, I literally sat down and wrote this song, and, you know, it's been tweaked a little bit here and there, but for the most part, this is the song that I wrote. So it's called Crying Over Me.
Shots rang out in Vegas over 3 chords and the truth, bringing us to our knees and chaos ensues. The smell of gunpowder covers the air. We need politicians who offer up more than just prayer. And I picked her up late last night, my old Ford truck. Show and a little bit of luck. Torn as we were, trying to get it right. I just wanted a brief escape from everyday life. And you don't wanna give up your God-given right. But what about my right to be safe at that concert last night? I just wanted to see maybe lose a couple of bucks in an old slot machine. But now my girl is at the hospital. She's crying over me. And I don't know if I'll ever wear those boots again. Don't even know where they've gone, where they've been. And I hope and pray that I will walk again, 'cause I'm laying here in the hospital for the right to live. And you don't wanna give up your God-given right. But what about my right to be safe at that concert last night? I just wanted to see Jason Aldean. Maybe lose a couple of bucks in an old slot machine. Now my girl is at the hospital. She's crying over me. Over me. And you don't wanna give up your God-given right. But what about my right to be safe at that concert last night? I just wanted to see Jason Aldean. Maybe lose a couple of bucks in an old slot machine. Now my girl is at the hospital. She's crying over me. Over me.
Yeah.
I think that one deserves the sound on moment of silence.
Silence.
Let that one breathe a bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first started playing with Dave, I mean, it was months, maybe even a month and a half, he brought that song to the group. I mean, when I first started, the songs he had were very powerful,
Yeah.
beautiful, well written, well thought out, and fun to play. Not alone, just easy to get along with. And then that thing came along, and it was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
what? Train's
Yeah.
rolling.
Yeah, definitely.
It brought a lot more to the table.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful song, and the way you all back it up on Insta, like you can kind of feel. There's so many moments where like you feel what's happening in the song on the dobro or on the banjo or on the bass. Like there's just these moments where,
Dobro is a very vocal sounding instrument.
Yeah.
That's kind of my goal with that. I mean, when we shred a jam, that's something else.
Right.
I might be trying to make it sound like an electric guitar, but like that song, I would definitely say like I'm definitely trying to capture the emotions of the song. With like the vocal qualities of the instrument for sure.
Yeah, guitar and especially slide guitar can be played in a way that almost resembles a horn at times with the expressiveness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, does everybody want to kind of get back to the spot? I want to talk about those songs a little bit. You weren't sounding like a young buck on the guitar on that second tune there, man.
No, that's good. My work here is almost done.
Yeah.
No, I played mandolin for a lot of years, and I started playing guitar back in college, and everybody else played guitar as well, and so I was like, okay, maybe I should try something different. And strangely enough, I was not listening to bluegrass. I was not listening to country music. I was listening to bands like Toad the Wet Sprocket and Counting Crows, and before that Green Day, and bands like that. And so. Yeah, back in the day.
Thank God he came around.
So I remember the first time I heard a mandolin, I think was Toad the Wet Sprocket. And I was like, I could do that. They're just strumming chords, right? Like that sounds so easy. I'll do that.
REM, right?
Yeah, totally. And so I got a mandolin and, started playing just with random people in town. And then
Slapped a capo on it?
I did not slap a cable on it. I've yet to do that. Well, I did do that on one tune I recorded once, but no one saw it because it was recorded. But so I started playing mandolin, and this friend that I had was like, "Oh, you play mandolin? You should check out this band called Olden in the Way." And I was listening to the Grateful Dead a little bit at that point. Like I just started to get into them. They're like, "Oh yeah, Jerry's in that band." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And I listened to it. I was like, "What the hell is this crap? This is nothing like what I'm used to."
Right.
But after about a month of occasionally listening to it, I was like, "Okay, like who's this guy on mandolin?" And then I went and listened to David Grisman, and I was like, "Oh crap." I've apparently got a long way to go on learning how to play this little tiny instrument. So I played mandolin in different bands for the last probably 18 years. And I took a break from guitar for about, I don't know, almost 10 years. But then I picked it back up to start writing with. So I slowly started getting better. And when I picked it back up, it was really good because I'd almost forgotten everything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to study now and not just fake it till I make it, right?
Sure.
So I picked up a bluegrass rhythm, how to play bluegrass rhythm DVD, and I picked up a Tony Rice instructional video, and I learned the solo, my proudest moment in my life, learning the solo to Gold Rush as Tony Rice plays it note for note. I can no longer do it, but I did, however, get about 6 licks from that one solo that I use to this day, and all I have to do is play those licks, and people are like, "Wow, you can shred on the guitar." Like, you have no idea. Don't make me make things up on the fly, right? But anyway, so I really wanted to start focusing on guitar and put the mandolin down, and I've really just been plugging away on it. And I think, the key as you get older in music is to not fake it till you make it, and figure out what you want to play really slowly and start working it up to speed. And aim for that, and you may not get it right, but if you don't get it right, it still sounds better if you're faking it till you make it.
Good philosophy. Yeah.
What's the process like? So you guys have such tasteful arrangements of these songs. What's the process look like? Like when you bring a song to the band, how do you guys flesh it
Dave
out?
brings the song to the band, and then we ignore everything that Dave says, except for the words that he says in the song, the lyrics and stuff. And then we yell at each other, and then eventually something
In the
happens.
same room, or
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
We're very
that's what the
open
studio. That's what the
band,
Soundproof
yeah.
Studio is for.
We don't yell at each other, but we don't hesitate to voice our opinions.
Yeah, that's,
right?
I think that's one of the greatest things I could say about being in this band is the work ethic is very strong, and egos are left at the door, and we're here to support the song more than anything else. And individual success has less to do with how we sound as a group together.
Yeah, and as far as just putting Dave on the spot for a second, and Dave's ego around writing the songs, like personally, Dave's one of my favorite songwriters out there. Period. That's why I'm in this band. Besides Ian's tasteful bass playing
And harmonies.
But that being said, I've heard some early versions of Dave's songs, and the way we play some of the tunes now sounds nothing like that. All of which is to say that I think Dave brings great songwriting to the band, great units of songwriting as songs, but is very open to everybody's artistic input with it. And I know that's probably something every band says, but like I can actually have proof.
Yeah, but
We have old recordings. So.
yeah, but if you take the two ingredients that you both were just talking about, which is having a band that is interested in furthering the music and lifting the music
Totally.
up, and then having a great songwriter with it, like that.
Well, yeah, and
you can't get much better than that.
Exactly, and that's I really think that you talk about the ingredients about what I don't know what makes a band good, but like at least for me, what I enjoy being in a band
Right.
with is good creativity, but also real lack of egos around that, which is pretty rare to find. You know?
Really hard to find with music.
Yeah, I think we've all played in bands where we've had mixed levels of success, mixed levels of interplay between the band members, so we kind of bring that with us as well, and that experience, and we all are in a good mindset of we want this to work, we want this to actually do something, so let's figure out how to do that and not worry about everything else that could be at play.
So do you guys write together at all, or do you usually bring in the songs, Dave, and then the music comes after?
So far I've brought in songs as far as I could get them anyway, which while I'm writing them I definitely aim for. I don't bring in a song that I feel is half-assed. I bring in a song that I feel like if I could play this on my own and feel good about it. But at the same time, I bring it in with the mindset of, there are certain parts of the songs that are, in my mind, locked in. But there are other parts of the song where I'm like, okay, I'm flexible on this.
Right.
But at the same time, I should say, Crying Over Me was if you listen to an old version of that, there were two different verses than one verse that I replaced it with. And so I definitely try to keep an open mind, and that was a really hard one. That was a song I brought into the band, and I wasn't 100% satisfied with the way the lyrics were. Like, they were good enough in my mind, but how you get to a point where you're like, it's good enough versus like, that's fucking gold, right? So we had this song, and we're planning on competing in the Rocky Grass competition this coming summer, and they have very strict guidelines on song length. And I think all of us enjoy playing a song and playing it long and jamming it out when we can. And so it was really good for us to experience looking at our songs from a different perspective. Like, okay, we've got this 5-minute song or this 4.5-minute song, and we're aiming for 3 minutes. How do we condense this song that we like every part of it down to 3 minutes is our goal?
It's
right?
been in stages too, because when I joined the band, I'd say the songs averaged out about 6.5 minutes. Average would be the wrong word. Started at 6.5 minutes.
That's the Grateful Dead inspiration.
Yeah,
Totally.
But so for the we played at the Ula Grass Festival band competition a couple months ago, I guess in January. And that we had a time limit of 15 minutes for 3 songs. And so we were like, okay, we're first at that point we had already, the Rocky Grass entry takes place in December, so we already knew we were going to have to eventually get to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, well, first step is we're going to get to 5 minutes with some songs. And then now we're working into the 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like
so
winging it.
literally what I did.
It's hard,
so,
though.
Yeah.
So we record all of our rehearsals, and I'll like throw them up on the computer in Dropbox and share them with everybody so we can listen back and identify like for ourselves what we need to work on.
Totally.
And so I went back to the songs for Ula Grass, even to the songs we're going to use in the competition, put them in Logic, and started just cutting parts out and merging, like throwing them around. Like, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And that was definitely the first stage of breaking it down. Mm-hmm. For Crying Over Me, it was originally 2 verses, chorus, 2 verses, chorus, and a lot of kind of in between stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was the first 2 verses I wasn't really happy with. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to take the strong parts of these 2 first verses and try to condense it into a verse. And that was extremely challenging. But the end result, I feel like, is 100 times stronger than what the original 2 verses were. And and these guys challenged me to go home and do that, like, and so that's definitely, I think, the
By
benefit.
challenge, you mean we said we're not playing.
We can't fit that.
Unless you figure out those verses.
Well,
Thanks.
that wasn't the original. It was we need to cut the time down, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home and see if I can fix these verses down to 1, because as a band, that's what we do, right?
Sure.
Like we're trying to, whatever our goal is, whether it's we've got to get our song to 3 minutes, or we want to sound tight and arranged versus throwing stuff together. Like Jens was saying, we checked the ego at the door, and even going back on a song that was a year old and rewriting 2 verses down to 1, it wasn't such an ego thing at that point. It was this is just challenging from a how do I do this standpoint.
Sure, logistical standpoint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how do I get out what I want to say?
But all that
in 4
being
lines instead
said,
of 8 lines?
to Jens's point about productivity and motivation, Dave said it was like, we had rehearsal on Tuesday night, and Dave was like, all right, I'm going to work on this tune, getting it down. And like by Thursday morning, he's like emailing me, like he's already.
What do you think of these lyrics?
Not only has he changed the lyrics, but he's already recorded himself doing it. And it's like the Logic stories he's talking about. It was like we talk about something at rehearsal, like literally talk about the first idea of let's take this song and rearrange it. And then like by like 9:30 a.m. the next day, he's sending me Logic files. And I'm like,
the desk is piled high of coffee and no-dos.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy's great.
The beauty of working for yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I also work for myself, so I'm at home listening to it. Yeah. But anyway, it's been, to Jens's point, it's great to work with people that are motivated and also really good at what they do. So.
Yeah.
And I will say the arrangements have really kind of come pretty easy in terms of, I think, the total band sound.
Yeah.
I think it was November when I first auditioned, or first time I started playing with you guys.
Wasn't that long ago.
Must have been, and I think that I walked right in. I only knew Dave and Tad. I didn't know the other 2 guys in the band at the time, and it just kind of immediately clicked. I think, for me, anyways, I could hear parts that weren't there, and I think everyone's good at adapting and hearing what everyone else is playing and getting new ideas and being really kind of interactive with how we're doing that. So a lot of the arrangements kind of just gelled together.
Yeah, and I could hear after a banjo solo, and so we said we'll take them.
as soon as we got, these core 4 in and played like once, literally I was like, holy shit. Like, this is what I've been aiming for.
You know that new sound you've been looking for?
Long time.
Back to the Future? Dude, that's like one of those famous quotes of all time. Oh, we're gonna have to educate Dave. Sorry, I forgot Dave's movie knowledge stops in the 70s when he was
I got you, Ted.
went to college.
Wait, I'm not that old. But yeah, so I mean, I've tried so many different incarnations of bands, not even this one, but other bands. And as soon as I got this group together and hearing everybody together and how, like, not only is every one of these guys a great musician, but the way they can listen and know when to play and when not to play,
right,
and how to interact off of each other, it is just amazing. Like, it makes it so easy for me as a leader of the band and as like the singer, where every other band I've been in where I've been singing lead on a song, I've still been thinking about what the rest of the band is doing, right? And this band, I can just focus on what I'm doing and my delivery and the emotions that I want to project with that, and not be thinking about what's going on with everybody else. Like, they're just like, in the pocket.
And then when something comes in, that you're not necessarally expecting, it's just that much more like, inspirational in
totally.
that moment. Yeah.
You guys make me go, but in a not weird way.
Everybody at home is missing just like moving his hips when he says that.
No, hands.
And grabbing.
Wait, that's weird too.
So what's the goal for this band? Like, where do you want to take this thing?
Oh God, for me personally, my whole reason for playing music is to have fun, to enjoy myself, also to create a dopamine response, I guess, if you will, in other people, right?
Yeah.
The most fun I've had in my life is being at a show and having the energy raise me up and like feeling almost godlike at this show. And so my goal is to create that for other people. As far as this band.
When you
like,
say godlike, you mean in the audience, not as the
yeah. No, totally.
You are not the golden guy.
Feeling is like I am one with whatever there is out there, right? Like not the band itself. Like
Totally.
they're like a tool to reach this energy.
We'll reword
whatever,
that one
right?
for the next interview.
Totally. I'll figure out a better way to say that. Because I'm a hesitant band leader, right? Like I've always been a sideman. I've always been a co-leader. Like it's taken a lot for me to get used to over the last year of leading a band and being the front man. Like that's weird to me. As far as like what success looks like for this band, I think for me, like I want to play some great festivals. I want to play the Boulder Theater, as Tad says. I want to play Red Rocks.
I just say we want to play Gold Rush at 200 BPM. That's I'll be satisfied with the band when we can do that.
If we can play for a crowd, whether it's 20 people or 2,000 people that are just in the moment and we've taken their mind off of everything else that's going on in their life and they're just there.
Boy, there's a lot of things
That's
to take
what I
people's
wanna
mind
do.
off of these days, right? That's even harder than ever, especially when they got the damn phone in their pocket coming out every 2 minutes. But yeah, I agree, Dave. That's a really good goal for sure.
Can we expect an album sometime?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
It's on our radar for sure.
Okay.
And yeah, he probably won't say it, but Dave is in the process of recording some of his original material as a solo album.
Songs that
wow.
haven't even made it to the band yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I know those going to make it out to the world.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know a fellow here in Longmont named Eric Wiggs with Masontown. So he just finished his studio, and I'm the first victim, so to speak, of recording in the studio. So I got a really good deal to go in and record it. I'm recording a 5-song EP, and there are songs that, it's interesting. Originally, I thought that they wouldn't fit with this band, but the more I'm hearing them, I think it would fit with this band. But definitely recording is on our radar for the band itself. It's more of, for me, it's more let's gather a fan base as much as we can first. We're really concentrating on Rocky Grass competition this summer, and I don't want to take our focus away from that by focusing on an album as well. And so I think that's our initial goal, and then after that, hopefully when we win, or at least make the finals,
We'll get our free session at E-Town.
our free session. But once we play that, there's no real immediate hardcore goals, if you will, on the horizon. So I think at that point we'll start narrowing down what do we want to put on the album, start working towards that, and then obviously like every other band, figuring out financing, right? I don't think our fan base is big enough right now to do a Kickstarter. So hopefully the goal is to get to Rocky Grass, get some momentum from that, and then hopefully we can take off from there.
I mean, we're going to be around for a while. You know, Dave, Adam, and I all live in Longmont. Tad lives in
totally.
Fort Collins.
I'm trying to move my tiny house close to here. Anybody in Lyons
If
has
anybody
a place to put
knows
a tiny
anyone,
house, just let me know. Nice.
We know somebody that knows somebody.
Do you really?
got a setup.
Glad I brought that up on the air.
We'll talk off there.
Actually, I do want to talk about Crying Over Me.
Yeah.
So I heard you play that song at Grosson Bar solo the night that we met a couple months ago, and I was pretty blown away by that one. And these guys obviously had the same reaction by just kind of a little bit we talked about when you were over there. So what is it about that song? I mean, obviously you talked a little bit about the story, but what is it that makes that so powerful and so cohesive for all of you guys?
Do you guys want to talk about that? I mean, I could talk about from the perspective I wrote it, but
yeah, it's interesting. Music isn't necessarily something to be overly analyzed, and but I mean, I don't know. I guess I have kind of an analytical mind and can't turn it off sometimes.
Me too.
And so I've sat around and thought about that song a little bit, and I think I do think there's some musical elements in it. It does have a strong hook. Mm-hmm. That's agnostic to who plays it.
Thanks to Tad. I mean,
I
you
was
wrote
not.
the hook.
Yeah, no, I did not.
You didn't.
You wrote the hook.
I never played the hook. Is it just in the melody?
I don't know. We don't know where it came from, but anyway,
Somebody wrote the hook.
It has some strong musical elements, but I would say going to the story or to the literal message, so to speak. I personally think that Dave takes, it's very easy to think about. Dave talked about mass shootings earlier, and it's very easy to start thinking about body counts, right? I mean, it's a very morbid way of thinking about those things, but I remember I used to live in New York, and I would go to Museum of Modern Art, and Andy Warhol had this this painting that was like a lot of his things was screen printed, and it has a lot of images on, or it had this particular one had an image of a car wreck, and it had an image of a car wreck about a dozen times, and each time it changed slightly. And someone told me that the point of that painting was to basically emulate what your reaction is to a media report of violence or suffering or loss, and see how, as the more you hear it, the more dulled or kind of desensitized to it that you become. And it's easy with the mass shootings as well. Unfortunately, I think that people, it's potentially people even start thinking about things in terms of number or location or setting, right? School versus concert versus whatever.
Yeah.
And all of that, regardless of what quality that takes, all of that takes away the human element of it a bit. And with this particular song, I think the fact that Dave really zeroes in on, I don't know that I've read about that so many times or thought about this so many times, but I don't know that I've ever had a window inside of one person's story. I'm sure those pieces have been produced out there in the media somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've ever experienced, even if I'd read it, I don't know that I would have really experienced it emotionally or continued to have that feeling inside of me. And I think with that particular song, Dave captures probably the most possible way you could have humanized that situation, rather than talking about 55 people or whatever it was being shot, or this crowd of people. He takes it and breaks it down into one person in the hospital, and girlfriend and story of like how they got to the show and everything. And, to me, that's probably about as personal as you can get. And when you think of, again, going back to like how most of us experienced that tragedy, I didn't know anybody that was there. I wasn't there. So it was through, how we consume media, right? And I think the experience of hearing the song and the way the story is told is just very different than that. So, Dave, does that count? Is that a good way of explaining it?
Good to me.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
That's exactly what I was trying to do with the song, was to bring the person into, like, if I were there, there's no harder position to experience that from than as if you were there.
Right.
And so I wrote a story around that, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to play off of that as a band, how you guys feel about that?
I close my eyes when I play. So when I really think about what's going on in the song, it really never has anything to do with lyrics, but those lyrics resonated more with me.
Yeah.
Because of the strength of the story and the strength of how it was written. And it would have been easy to go into a lot more, call to action and, politicize it rather than identify the story and the emotion.
Yeah.
And really have that resonate more in the song. And I think that's what was so beautiful about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of what adds that magic to it. Is it's not saying do this, don't do that. It's just saying, what about this perspective?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Make with Make with it what you will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's one thing when I write songs that are, for me, I definitely, obviously, like everybody else, have a very political view, right?
Right.
But when I write music, like, it's interesting. I want to appeal to the masses. I don't want to be a Bob Dylan or a Joni Mitchell, but at the same time, I want to make people think, right? Like, and I think that's one of the challenges we have today in our political spectrum, is that people get so locked into their own view, they don't put themselves outside of it to see what other people are seeing or to even consider other perspectives. And for me, that song was really a way, like, and the rewrite of that actually turned out a lot better, because the original version was a little more left-leaning.
I'm left-handed, and it was way further left than me.
So having the opportunity and the oh gosh, I don't know what you call it, everybody telling me to rewrite it to shorten it. I mean, it made it such a better song from that standpoint, as far as, it's more appealing to the masses regardless of your political viewpoint. It's what I really wanted to do in the end was, like, make people think, you know, and I still have the one line in there that for me is really the hook of we need politicians to do more than just offer us prayer. Like that's the one thing that every time there's a mass shooting, that's the one thing that like I just like it there's a visceral response to, you know, like that to me, that's a cop out, you know, like whether you're a religious person or you're not a religious person, at the end of the day, it's the action that matters, regardless of what's creating that action, whether it's a belief in God or not. So to just say like, we're praying for you, come on, like that's my one remaining lyric. That's a whammy. But other than that, I think it's a good song for everyone.
What about the other two tunes?
Oh gosh, okay. So Never Flown was really kind of a bullshit tune from the standpoint of
We've
lyrics.
never heard or been able to guess anything about Never Flown, so we're very interested to hear this too.
God, I'm trying to even think now. So
It was not in B flat when you first brought it to the
I don't
table,
even.
that's
So
for sure.
I literally that was a tune I started working on for a previous band for Mayhem Gulch, and I had written the lyrics down, and you know I have a lot of songs that I sit down and almost as an exercise, right? Like I'm going to, and you know it's really funny. They used to tease me in Mayhem Gulch. I have a lot of songs about running. Like whether it's running away or running to something or driving away or leaving, you know, like
Just the running kind.
the running kind. Yeah, we should actually do that one later. But so I had a lot of songs about running, which it was really funny because that kind of when I don't have a theme that I really want to focus on, I'll like songwriting exercises like that. That was my kind of go-to exercise theme was about running in some way or another. Sure. And I think that came from the fact, you know, this ties back to Gonna Make It. I grew up in a small desert town. The entire time I was growing up, I wanted to get out. Like my whole reason for excelling in school or for whatever else was to get out of that town. As long as I was somewhere else, it would be better, right? So I think that theme ties back a lot to kind of a lot of the songs I write, you know, whether it's about driving or running or whatever, you know, it's always kind of back to that, like getting out of that town I grew up in it was a 5,000 person town. There was nothing there. There was no music. There was, and even then I knew I wanted to be a part of live music, even if it was just to see music.
Right.
There was 0 concerts within a 100-mile radius.
Tim and I can relate exactly to that.
So what's Never Flown about?
So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
All right, good talk.
I don't know. But taking that into Gonna Make It, so Gonna Make It kind of is, you know, it goes back to there's the line in there, son of the sun, and that could be interpreted a lot of ways, but it's a son of the sun in the sky is what it's meant to be because I grew up in the desert and there was no snow. There was very little rain. It was all sun all the time, 120 degrees. And so that line came from that. And then the Gonna Make It is just like, I'm going to get out of this town and I'm going to make it. You know, like that's that song. So now you know that song. It's
it took
not
me,
as intense as...
Yeah, I got the hot desert sun first line of that song.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was like, oh, this is autobiographical. That being said, I haven't figured out every line.
Hinted autobiographical stuff, but not all.
That one's a little bit more clear to me.
Awesome. Well, you guys want to play one more to take us out?
Sure.
Yeah. Kind and we've done our radio edits of our tunes.
I was gonna say let's do the
That's
radio.
good. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. On this breezy summer night in the mountains so
Yeah. All right. High Road Home at Beyond the Mountain Brewing in Gun Barrel, Saturday, March 16th at 6 p.m. and Oscar Blues Lions, April 28th, starting at 8 p.m. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for
you.
doing this. It's
Yeah.
a great thing.
Awesome.
Supporting local
Yeah.
groups,
Thank you.
musicians, artists, whatever. It's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being one of them. And
Longmont versus the world.
That's right.